Hi everyone. Do not let this almond oil bath look for you. I am sick. Let me tell you something right now, man. I'm not only have I got my period on, I've been having this pain right here. And that's only just subsided just now. I'm tired as fuck. I ain't been sleeping well. So with that said, why did I decide to come on live today and shoot the shit? I decided to do it because I wanted to talk about weaponized incompetence. I think I called it weaponized helplessness, which is it's like a cross between learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence. But this is where learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence differ. Before I go into this discussion, I'm going to explain the difference between learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence. And then I'm also going to go into another subject of love, toxicity, and, you know, what love really means, because it kind of ties into the weaponized incompetence discussion. So the difference between learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence is this. Learned helplessness, it comes from a genuine place of being in a helpless situation where, you know, any salvation or any relief you could get was dependent almost entirely on your external situation. There might have been an inordinate amount of control that was exercised over you. And then from there, it kind of makes you feel like you're doomed, or you're destined to be stuck in negative feelings, or, you know, being unable to help your situation for the rest of your life. A lot of depressives can suffer with this, mentality, because, you know, the way the illness affects you, it affects your serotonin levels. So of course you're going to feel like shit all the time, and you're going to feel like that's the way you're going to feel forever. So you, in a bid to prove yourself right, you don't do anything actively to help your situation. But you're not doing that out of vindictiveness. You're not doing that to get out of doing something with your life. Well, certainly not consciously anyway, maybe subconsciously. You're doing that simply for the purpose of proving yourself right, not so that you can get out of responsibility, not so that you can be vindictive. Learned helplessness is not vindictive. It is not petty. It is self-sabotaging. Certainly, it can be self-destructive at worst. But what it is about is not feeling like reality contradicts your perspective, which is something that all human beings do. So that's where learned helplessness comes from. It's the need to reinforce to yourself that you are still the same helpless situation, that you're still the same helpless person that you were when you were traumatized by that one event or by multiple events. That's what learned helplessness is. Weaponized incompetence, on the other hand, boy, shit, that's a loaded gun, my guy. That's a loaded gun. Weaponized incompetence, learned helplessness can facilitate weaponized incompetence. It can even cause weaponized incompetence. Weaponized incompetence is like learned helplessness, malicious little sister. Okay, it's it's basically a way in which you are tasked with the responsibility that is normally the job of someone else, even if it's something that you know you can do. You make sure you do it incorrectly so that you're not asked to do it again. Now, learned helplessness can facilitate this behavior, but weaponized incompetence is, for lack of a better word, it's highly inconsiderate. It's narcissistic at worst. It's very, very vindictive, because it can be a way of rebellion against the person who has asked you to do something. That person could be kind of an ubermensch, you know, they're really good at everything. They're very purposeful. They're very organized. They have exacting standards for how everybody should do something. You know, they're always right. So when you're asked to do something, and, you know, sometimes the thought of not being able to meet their standards, it makes you weaponize incompetence so that you're not asked to do it again, so that they're always in control, and so that you can just coast along whilst the other person, the Übermensch, does most of the work in the relationship. So it can be, it's not always vindictive. It can be just a sign of giving up. But yeah, it can be a really vindictive way of saying, well, okay, well, seeing as you got it like that, why don't you handle everything? And other times it's just like, there are things that I want to do and it's not this, so I'm not going to do it. Now, I have experiences of my own. I'm medium functioning, right? And I have experiences of my own of both learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence. When I grew up with a family of extreme perfectionists. On my mum's side, it was the men, because it was the men in the family who were really perfectionist. Like everything had to be just so, because most of them were interior designers or tailors. So it's like exacting standards was a part of it was just part and parcel of our family, especially with the men. On my dad's side, it was the women who were perfectionist and, had to get everything done. But for them, it was more about organization than having every detail thought about. But on both sides of the equation, most people would say that's typical of Black Caribbean families. And, from what I've seen, yeah, it is. Exacting standards. For somebody with a whole host of issues like ADHD, histrionic and self-sabotaging borderline personality disorder, somebody who's, who had a seizure and then that one seizure affected their entire cognitive abilities, growing up with not really, really disciplinarian parents in comparison to what some other black children got. But I grew up with quite stern parents as well on top of that. I didn't really have a relationship with my brother, not really. But it was a combination of all those things that kind of made me, first it started with weaponized helplessness because I didn't notice how much I was improving as a result of my upbringing. As stern as it was and ultimately toxic as it was very effective, and I didn't notice how much certain things about myself had been improved, namely because it wasn't because it wasn't pointed out to me. My accomplishments were if I made any accomplishments, if I did anything positive, that was pointed out to me all the time. So I was not lacking in positive reinforcement here. It was simply learned helplessness. I think it went back to that time when I was 3, when I had that massive seizure and I had to start everything all over again. And I think I learned helplessness before I knew what it was or I knew how to control it. So it started with learned helplessness. And then, on top of that, family life just got even more chaotic. So I learned to be helpless. I was a very slow child, and I'm not talking about lack of intelligence. I mean, slow to do things. I was very quick to think, but I was slow to do things. The quickness of my mind and my actions didn't match. And I think it was as a result of all the illnesses that I'd had before, but teachers used to rush me and my family used to rush me. They didn't understand that I was slow in action and not thought. They didn't understand that I needed time to do things, time to feel things out before I did things. So it, to me, from a very young age, it kind of sent the signal that it doesn't matter what I do, I'm not going to get it done as quickly as somebody else. So I might as well either just copy from someone else or just make sure I don't do it well so they don't ask me to do it again. And it was learned helplessness at first because I genuinely felt that there was this dichotomy between what I presented to the world and what I really thought of myself. What I presented to the world was that I was better than everybody, but what I really felt was that I was worse than everybody. So I kind of used a combination of the two in order to convince myself that I would never really amount to anything more than that. It was only when I was like around, it was only when I was like around 11 or something that it became like weaponized incompetence. It became weaponized incompetence at a very early age. But from my mind, it was a mixture of being vindictive against the world who demanded more of me than I felt that I could give. And it was, how do I put this? It was vindictiveness. It was a rebellion against a world that I felt was demanding more than I could give them. And it was also that I genuinely felt like I couldn't do what they wanted me to do, even though I was wrong. The only difference between me and somebody else is that I'm slower, and that's it. It's got nothing to do with lack of aptitude, lack of ability, lack of, so this weaponized incompetence, it's actually kind of followed me throughout my life because, that's my social media presence. Everything that I've ever done is as a result of learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence all in one. The positive side of that is that it's allowed me to give myself some time to breathe in order to actually learn how to master things in my own way, in my own time, right? But on the other side of things, my family can't trust me with anything big. They don't even tell me if anything big is going on because they can't trust me to do it. And they can't trust me to do it because I couldn't trust myself to do it. I couldn't trust myself to do it, and which is learned helplessness. And then on top of that, the weaponized incompetence of not only my physical capacity, but my mental capacity. I would often act crazier than I was in order to get out of stuff. I made out like my health was way worse than it was so that I wouldn't have to do things. And that has followed me throughout my life. And to complicate things even further, I think if I was a man, I think I would have been worse, but I would have got more sympathy because as a woman, you don't get that much sympathy anyway, but also you're better at masking. So the fact that I would mask occasionally would only make things worse. The fact that I was so good at masking, especially at first, especially when people first met me, that just made the weaponized incompetence thing even worse. That just made the learned helplessness thing even worse. I met such a fucking badass, like this intelligent, resilient, dope, fucking eccentric person. Like, what the fuck is this I've ended up with? And that's not even in terms of like friendship or families. It's in terms of lovers as well. Like, you were so cool. What the fuck happened? I put myself to a higher standard that I couldn't live up to because that's what I learned from the rest of the world. The rest of the world put me to standards that I felt like I couldn't meet, and therefore I kind of reflected that in my own behavior and how I treated myself and other people. So this weaponized helplessness was, weaponized incompetence and learned helplessness is at the root of a lot of my behavior growing up. And even on social media to this point as an adult, it's all learned helplessness or weaponized incompetence. Okay? Even though, to be honest, some of it has really helped me. I can't lie. But yeah. It's weaponized incompetence. And what I call it there. And learned helplessness. And it's only now that I'm starting to see exactly how badly that sabotaged my life. And the thing that I want to point out, the reason why I'm relating it to relationships now is because it's usually associated with men. But I feel like people are missing something here when they make this about gender. This is not about gender. We live in a misogynist world where men get away with a lot of shit and they delude themselves into thinking that that's not what they've done. They've gotten away with a lot of shit and and now that they're expected to meet the same standards that women meet all the time, now it's too difficult for them. But Learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence are not just male. Anybody can exercise them. And once again, learned helplessness can be at the root of it sometimes. If this world has always taught you that you're not good at certain things, or that you're good at other things, or that you're gonna find ways to get out of responsibilities of doing things that you're not used to doing, you're going to find ways to rationalize it inside your mind, or to use manipulative tactics in order to get out of doing said things. If men are told that they're not good at cooking and cleaning and grocery shopping and things like that, if society has told them that they're not good at it, then when somebody asks them to do it, they're going to weaponize that incompetence as a combination of learned helplessness, learned helpless behavior, as a combination of learned helpless behavior and weaponized incompetence. They're going to combine the two and ensure that they don't have to do anything that they've been brainwashed into thinking that they're not good at. The ego of an adult is very, very fragile. It's way more fragile than a child, because a child, they always want to learn something new. They always want to do something new. They always want to explore. They always want to go off somewhere or do some other shit. As you get older, your ego gets more and more fragile, and it gets harder and harder as an adult to admit when you're wrong. So this whole thing of weaponized incompetence is just a lot of people not wanting to admit when they're wrong, and not wanting to admit when things are not going so well. Do you understand what I mean? So yeah, weaponizing, it can be very vindictive as well, because it's letting the person in control know, you are in control, and then you're not in control at the same time. You want to be good at everything, go ahead and take it. And what nobody points out is how this weaponized incompetence, it doesn't just serve the ego of the person weaponizing the incompetence. It also serves the ego of the person on the receiving end of it. If you're the kind of person who needs to feel right all the time, who needs to feel like in control, who needs to feel like they're perfect, that they're the pearl, amongst swine, then you're going to gravitate towards people who exhibit this learned helplessness or this weaponized incompetence. You're going to gravitate towards that so you don't think you're crazy. And the worst part about it is that controlling aspect of who you are, it might genuinely be who you are as a person, just like that weaponized incompetence or that learned helplessness might be the person that you're pursuing or the person that you're looking after. It might be their it might be their love language as well. So it doesn't just serve the purpose of the person. Hang on a second. Yeah, can I carry on? All right, so it doesn't just help the person who was weaponizing the incompetence. It also helps the person who wants to be right all the time and wants to be in control. It's like there's basically this agreed exchange between the two of them that they're going to fulfill one another's delusion rather than evolve as people, which is their real purpose for being together. And that weaponized incompetence and learned helplessness, you'd be surprised at how many arenas this shit goes into. You'd be surprised at how many arenas and how many rooms this type of behavior goes into. Not even just romantic relationships, in politics. It goes into politics. It goes into fucking the workplace. It goes into finance. Whichever conceivable place you think that weaponized incompetence and fucking learned helplessness can go into, it can go into all those different fields. And you think I'm talking shit, but have a look at how people operate. Who are the useless ones? Who are the ones who hide their insecurities in their abilities behind a mask of cluelessness? Watch the people who do that. And then they want to turn around and call that humility. And then watch the people who want to be the alpha, who want to be in control of everything, and how they just lap up the opportunity to take on everybody else's shit. Because they can't handle being in the wrong. They can't handle being not in control. They need to be the police officers of the planet. That is literally everywhere. It is not gender specific. It is not, you know, it goes into all different arenas. It's not gender specific. It's not specific to relationships. It is literally everywhere. And like I keep saying in my videos, there's no good without evil, and there's no evil without good. There's no control without chaos, and no chaos without control. So the person engaging in weaponized incompetence and learned helplessness, and the alpha who sees all their problems as external, they share a symbiotic relationship in all areas of life and in all different arenas of life. Which brings me to my next subject. I said on my Facebook that this type of relationship is the sign of an unhealthy relationship. But this is what nobody tells you about true love. True love is not about being healthy. I thought it was. I thought it was. I thought that true love was about being healthy, or about being the stereotype of what being healthy looks like. True love isn't about being healthy. It's not about passion. It's not about romance. It's not about practicality. It's not about diligence. It's not about anything. Love is neutral. Love, just like truth, are neutral. They have no sides. And they're facilitated by one thing and one thing only: our feelings and our actions matching each other. And it doesn't matter how maladaptive you are, if it is in your fate, or if it is in your destiny, and I believe in destiny, if it is in your destiny to meet the true love of your life and settle down with them, then it's going to happen. That doesn't rely on you having a healthy relationship with them. It's not dependent on you having a healthy relationship with them. It's not dependent on you being a good person. It's not dependent on you breaking out of your learned helplessness or breaking out of your destructive behavior patterns. Finding true love in your life is not dependent on you actually being a good person or a healthy person. Weaponized incompetence and learned helplessness will not stop you from finding true love. It will not stop that if it is truly in the cards. No less than, being an alpha or needing to be in control all the time. That's not going to stop you from finding true love either, if it's meant for you. True love is not about two healthy people getting together, or even 2 or 3 healthy people getting together. It's about people getting together and building a community together based on mutual beliefs and mutual core ethics. That's what it's about. Doesn't have to be healthy. What's worrying is that, that is worrying to me. The fact that you don't have to be healthy to be truly in love. You don't need that. That's an illusion. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. You keep being told you need to be healthy in order to be... No, you need to be healthy in order to be happy. You don't need to be healthy in order to be in love. No, actually, scratch that. You don't even need to be healthy or to be a good person in order to be happy. You need to be yourself in order to be happy. In order to find out where you truly lie and where your priorities truly lie and who you're supposed to be as a person, the only way you're going to do that is if you cultivate a relationship with yourself before you cultivate a relationship with anybody else. And that's just not so you can be better as a person. It's so that you can get to know yourself. And acceptance and awareness of who you are, that's what leads to everything else. That's what leads to you getting what you're supposed to get in a way that you're supposed to get it. But learned helplessness, as much as I feel like anybody, this is coming from somebody who's exhibited weaponized incompetence in her life. If somebody does that shit with you, I feel like you should fucking leave them. Personally, I feel like anybody who is engaging weaponized incompetence in a relationship, leave them. They need to get better in their own time. They need to get better in their own time without you. If they don't love you enough to get over themselves and take over the reins, if they don't love you enough to learn from you, you don't need to be with them. And it's the same with you. If you don't love the other person enough to just give the other person some responsibility and take it off your back, you don't need to be with them. Because you're there to learn from each other. You're not there to be healthy. You're not there to be, the stereotype of what healthy looks like. You're there to learn from each other. And if you're not learning, there's no point. But then having said that, again, true love doesn't rely on you learning anything or being healthy. It just relies on you just being yourselves. And if that's who you are, then, And as for people weaponizing incompetence, understand that comes from learned helplessness. It comes from learned helplessness. And the horrible thing is that when people like yourselves get sick, like I did, there was a time where last year I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. My home was way tidier when I couldn't walk, and I had to fucking tidy up my room lying on my side, unable to walk. I got more done. I got more exercise in. I got more work in when I was sick than when I had full use of my limbs. That's a problem. How to remedy that? The healthier you are is the more you have to hurry up and wait. You cannot judge yourself by how other people operate. You have to take everything one day at a time. And that's how you cultivate discipline. People think cultivate discipline is about being strict and stern and about shouting people down. And yeah, that can be effective for a while. But after a while, when that pressure's off, you will weaponize that incompetence. You will weaponize incompetence in all other areas of your own life. That's why it's not a good idea to start with stern foundations. Take everything one day at a time. Don't judge yourself as good or bad. Take it one day at a time. You keep going as you go. You will go from not being able to cook worth of shit to literally only being enamored with your own food. I should know that happened to me, okay? I'm not a master chef or anything. I still burn shit, but I'm a way better cook now than I was a few years ago. But that's because I took everything slow. As a tarot reader, I'm nothing if not entertaining. But that took me years to it was an everyday thing that just progressed and progressed and progressed. And it's the same with everything in life. In fact, the healthier that you are as a person, the more important that shit becomes to take your time. Actually, no, scratch that. The more unhealthy you are in body and mind is the more important it becomes to take your time with everything. You've got to take your time, and you've got to take it one day at a time. If you're a healthy person, you've got to take it one day at a time. And if you're an unhealthy person, you've got to take it an hour at a time. Taking everything slowly is the absolute key to being a full functioning human being. It doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on. It doesn't matter if you're a so-called incompetent or an alpha. Taking it slow is crucial. Taking everything day by day is crucial. And I know it sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people rush themselves into shit before they've had the opportunity to know what they actually want. Next thing they know, decades down the line, they're in a job they never wanted, in a situation they never wanted, and they're wondering how they got here. And it happens to us all. Taking things slower than you should, it might save your life. Because then you take in information more readily. You take in information more readily. You store it up more readily. And you become really, really good at what you do. Does it guarantee that you'll be happy? I don't know. But it guarantees that you'll have a proper relationship with yourself and you'll know yourself better. And that's a start. So anyway, I don't know if that's the end. I feel like I'm supposed to end on another note. Yeah, so weaponized incompetence, learned helplessness. This life is hell, man. There are certain things that I know that I have to do that I don't want to do, and I'm rationalizing myself that I don't have to do it because, again, learned helplessness and weaponized incompetence. There's so many things that I could be doing right now, but I've convinced myself, well, I'm not actually well, but there are certain things that I've convinced myself that I'm not going to be able to do, when really all I'm doing is just ducking out of something I don't want to do. That's all I'm doing. And in order to have like real love in your life and to have real passion in your life, it's about more than just the happy times and the blissful moments. It's about the precisions. It's about the little details. It's about, I keep borrowing from the Witches of Eastwick, passion without precision is chaos. Love and life are not just about the blissful moments or the euphoric moments. They're about all the little moments that are not life or death, but that are important same way. They're important same way. So your relationship with yourself is no different to a relationship with anyone else. It's about more than the big shit. It's more about the little moments and the big shit, honestly. And no, whilst I can't guarantee that everybody will end up with someone, because for some people it's just not in the cards, and that's all right. But one thing I do know is that ultimately weaponized helplessness comes from you feeling like you're worse at what you do than you actually are. You just need more time, and that's it. That's it. That is it. That is it. Little bit more time, little bit more effort. That is it. That's all you need. You are not useless. Stop acting like it, and stop using, your perceived uselessness as a way to punish people who seem more in control than you are. Because let me tell you something, those people's egos are even more fragile than yours. Because unlike you, who feel that all your problems are internal, they feel like their problems are external. So what happens when all them plates drop? Anyway, that's my TED talk for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope I made sense. I've got some stuff I need to do. I'm hoping that, honestly, I'm just tempted to just give myself some rest right now because I'm still in pain. I might be able to do some stuff around the house. I don't know. But, if I'm not going to give myself a hard time about it. Because giving yourself a hard time about it is learned helplessness. And it's weaponized incompetence. So, I love you guys. Take care. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.